and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. It is February 20th, is Wednesday evening, 2019, and tonight's topic is a try again from last night. Is it time for gold, Bitcoin, silver, and Litecoin to shine? Thankfully, last night was not breaking news or a very time-sensitive topic, because this topic is ongoing. We are seeing some movement in alternative assets, gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies. So we're going to take a deeper look tonight from the stories that we were going to cover last night until we got cut off. And then we're also got some new stories that happened today. All right, so let's take a look now at the gold prices and silver price. Before we do, though, earlier today I released the Russian gold reserve numbers for January. And they weren't really that stupendous, it's a new word. They were 200,000 ounces of gold, which is about 6.22 tons. Now, that's not very much for Russia. Again, it's January, and it's only 1 month. In December, they only did 300,000 ounces. But I think the big important takeaway from Russia is not de-dollarization and game over and game changer and Russia knows what's coming and all that other nonsense. It's that Russia is excuse me, the third largest gold producer in the world, behind Australia and China. China and Russia hold on to pretty much all of their gold. China holds on to 100% of it. It mines about 450 tons a year. And Russia mines about 300 tons a year, and it holds on to, as we'll see in a minute, about 85–90% of it. Which means that they're converting their local currencies into gold, which makes sense, because the yuan is not a strong currency, and the Russian ruble is not a strong currency either. And you can see what Russia does. Each and every month, it adds gold to reserves. And you can see from 2014 to 2019, some months they had 1 million ounces of gold to reserves. Now, the last couple of months, they haven't added too many. You can see to the far right, December, 300,000 ounces. Still a lot of gold. I mean, it's like 9 tons. January, 200,000 tons, like 6.2 tons. But not so much, but still a decent amount. As I say, the important thing is that Russia is basically keeping all of its gold. And this is the chart you need to look at. This is a chart I've been keeping for a while, and this is really what's important. Because oftentimes you get the total gold mining production globally. Well, keep in mind that global gold mining production you generally think of as supplying the world. It's not that simple, because the gold that's mined in Russia supplies Russia. 86% of it, as you can see, 2017 and 2018. The remainder of that gold went to China in 2017, and in 2018 it went to China and India. And that's pretty much how it's going to be. So there's not much gold there for China or India. I mean, you're talking about 30 or 40 tons between the two of them. So China is going to have to rely on its gold demand, not from Russia, but from China. And China itself doesn't produce enough gold, so it's going to have to rely on gold produced elsewhere. India produces no gold. So it's not going to be able to get that much from Russia. Certainly not going to get any from China. So it has to rely on the rest of the world to get its gold. That's the real issue when a central bank like Russia eats up all of its gold. It basically takes its gold off the market. Almost like it was during the Bretton Woods agreements. Why do I say that? Because during the Bretton Woods agreement from 1944 to 1971, Russia was behind the Iron Curtain, was part of the Soviet Union, was the country running the Soviet Union. They were a gold producer back then. They did not export their gold to, quote, the free world. The free world got the bulk of their gold from South Africa. which had to mine a prodigious amount of gold to keep the Western world happy and to keep Bretton Woods alive. This is a very interesting chart. I think this is more important to look at than how much gold Russia adds each month to reserves. Of course, we need to keep that all in context. But really, when you look at it at the end of the year, it's how much of Russian gold produced stayed in Russia. And you can see since 2016, 80%, 2017, 86%, and 2018, 86%. That's a big increase from the 2011, 12, 13 period where they shipped more than half of their gold outside of Russia, or some of them might have stayed in Russia but didn't go to the central bank. But I think that is what Russia has been doing since the sanctions. They figure, look, we got a really cheap currency. The ruble makes no sense. To the extent that we have gold in our backyard, let's flip that gold, flip those rubles into gold, and it makes total sense. So that gold is really, it's like back to the Soviet Union. We're not going to get that gold in the Western world. So it doesn't count towards the Western or even much of the rest of the world's gold demand. And also just to keep in mind, and again, there's a YouTube already up on this. It's already up on the Smaulgld website. You can check out these charts. You can see them much better. But all central banks are different. And a lot of people go on about China, crush the dollar. Nonsense. China has so much debt, it's not going to crush anything. And Russia's not going to crush anything either. Russia's not, they're part of the BRICS and they've had it and they're de-dollarizing. You got to remember, fiat currency systems are, the dollar is the king of the fiat currency systems. These other systems, Russia or other currencies, Russia, Chinese yuan, whatever it is, Kazakhstan tenge, Argentine peso, Turkish lira, euro, whatever they are, the dollar happens to be the strongest of all the fiat currencies. Despite what you may hear or read or wish to believe, the Russian ruble is a horrible currency. It's not in demand at all. Despite the fact that they have 19% of their reserves in gold, doesn't matter. The Kazakh tenge has 47, 48% of their reserves in gold. Doesn't strengthen the currency. So Richard Nixon actually was right when he said that a nation's currency is based on the strength of its economy. That was the new definition that he put out there in 1971 in August, when he pulled the United States off the Bretton Woods dollar/gold standard and said, we're not giving you dollar, we're not giving you gold for your dollar, central banks, anymore. You're just going to accept the dollar because dollar is the dollar. The U.S. rules. That has basically been not only what has given the dollar value with all this petrodollar and whatever reason people hold the dollar, but all other currencies really are based on, since they're all on a fiat currency system, they're all based on what the perceived strength of their economies are, not on how much gold they have. So it's a very interesting development that's happened since 1971. And you remember, that's because the Bretton Woods Agreement, I can't repeat this enough, was not a gold standard. A lot of people should go back to the gold standard. That wasn't a gold standard. That was a dollar standard. That was, the dollar would be the reserve currency, and the dollar would be, quote, backed by gold, and other central banks could bring their dollars that they accumulate and trade and get gold for them from the U.S. Treasury. That is a dollar standard, dollar backed by gold, but the dollar backed by gold for purposes of the world being able to use the dollar and to think that when they have dollars, they in a sense have gold. Which is crazy to think, because the amount of dollars in world trade that were flowing around did not match, obviously, the 10,000, 12,000 tons that the U.S. had at the time. Again, it was a fractional reserve system. It wasn't gold-backed dollar. It was, if you want it, yeah, come and get it. Don't come too often. Don't come early. Don't come often, and we'll give you the gold. And then France and Germany and Switzerland said, well, screw that. We know you don't have enough gold. This whole system is screwed up to begin with. That's all right. We take the gold. And they would bring their warships to the U.S. and collect the gold. And finally, Nixon realized, the U.S. Treasury realized, this isn't going to go on much longer. We're going to be out of gold. So they shut the gold window, and that was the end of Bretton Woods. It was a stupid idea to begin with. The original classic gold standard was when each country each country measured its currency by a unit of gold. The Bretton Woods Agreement measured the dollar and said, yeah, the dollar's as good as gold because they'll give you dollars if you want it. Or they'll give you gold if you want it. So, but you can see, Russia, central bank, one of the more prudent, developed economy banks, even with sanctions, they've increased their currency slash reserve assets from $371 billion in 2016. Just 3 years later, nearly $500 billion to $475.9 billion. They still have dollars. They just don't have a lot of treasuries. They have a lot of reserves. And yet, the ruble is harmed. I mean, the ruble is not a strong currency at all, even though they don't have massive debt, even though they've got 18-19% of their reserves in gold. So this highlights that gold, even though while it's part of the monetary system has value, currently is not valued high enough, I guess, to give. I mean, they have $89 billion worth of gold, Russia, and they've got the 5th largest central bank gold hoard. It's not ranked high enough to actually underpin a country's currency, really. Canada has no gold. Relatively strong currency. England has only 300 tons. I mean, Kazakhstan has more gold than England. And I ask you, which currency is stronger, the Kazakhstan tenge or the British pound? Well, you know the answer to that one is, despite all the problems that the British pound may have, obviously the British pound is a more desired currency many central banks hold. The British pound as a reserve asset. All right, that's all I wanted to show you on Russia. You can go back and look at the website and check it out. And then for what it's worth, here's where Russia is now in the top 10 in the gold reserves by country. And you can see they're ahead of China. And again, all the gold pumpers, China's lying, Sun Tzu. It's nothing to do with Sun Tzu or China being smart. That's the People's Bank of China. That's what they have. It's not what China has. It's not all the gold in China. It's the gold on the People's Bank of China's balance sheet. Russia has more. The Central Bank of Russia has more. Central Bank of France, Central Bank of Italy have more than Russia. The IMF has more than those two. Germany has more than all three of them. And the United States Treasury, not the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve doesn't have any gold. It's got gold notes, but has no gold. They may store some of the U.S. gold, but the United States gold is held by the U.S. Treasury at a variety of places, including the New York Fed and Fort Knox, West Point, Denver, and a couple other places. All right. Now let's get into, well, since we're going to be talking about gold and crypto, let's do quick news stories, then we'll do Moronica, and then we'll hit gold and silver. How's that sound? All right? All right. Let's see here. China. This is funny here. This is a very important point here. This is coming from China. China warns new tariffs will be catastrophic for global stocks. Very interesting. They're not saying it's going to be catastrophic for us. They're saying it's going to be catastrophic for the United States. They're saying it's going to be catastrophic for global stocks. If the U.S. imposes more tariffs on Chinese products while China responds with fierce countermeasure, it would be catastrophic strike to global stocks. This is exactly the type of Sun Tzu nonsense that the gold pumpers will try to tell you. When disaster might come to you, warn of such damage on others. Sun Tzu. No, this actually is pretty transparent. What China is saying is, indirectly, new tariffs would be catastrophic for us in China. And if there's catastrophe in China, there may be global catastrophe. That's what they're saying because those are what the facts are. China has a problem and China collapses, the world's going to have a problem. That's where China's your gold buddy. That's when gold goes higher. When the Chinese debt Ponzi scheme collapses, not when China crushes the dollar and sends gold skyrocketing. That's not going to happen. China is part of and is worse off than any fiat currency. Why? Because China runs on debt. China has capital controls. China is a currency manipulator. China can only run its economy by issuing more credit for a decreasing amount of GDP. China is a classic fiat debt Ponzi scheme. Not to say that the United States isn't. The difference is China's printed more debt than the United States is, if you can believe that, and they are, over the last 10 years than the United States has. And it's not a trusted currency. It's known for people not believing their reporting. Now, you could say, well, people don't believe the U.S. reporting. Well, that's true, too. But the Chinese reporting is an inside joke amongst many people, is they add a factor onto whatever they admit to. So, for example, they have non-performing loans in certain industries 30 to 50%. That's what they admit. The United States doesn't have yeah, of course, we've got student debt. We've got car loans. Sure, there's a lot of bad debt in the U.S. China, it's much worse. But again, China is warning U.S. tariffs will be catastrophic for global stocks. No, they'll be catastrophic for China, and then because it's catastrophic for China, it will impact global stocks. That's for sure. And I think if you want to think about China as being your gold buddy, which is nonsense, but issues in China may cause gold to rise, but not for the reason that because they're going to crush the dollar. All right, today we're starting to hear this is like the end of the Mueller probe, and this is driving a lot of people nuts because nothing has leaked. People have cheered on all the indictments, but the indictments are just, they have nothing. They're process crimes, people lying to Mueller, people like Manafort or Cohen, cheating on their taxes, not registering as a foreign agent, all kinds of shenanigans, but nothing to do with the Trump campaign, nothing to do with Russian collusion. But I think a lot of people conflate that. They're like, Mueller's taking everyone down. Yeah, they're taking him down for, like, taking down Roger Stone. I don't know what that does. Roger Stone is just basically a political huckster. They surround his, Clancy takes the boys and surround the house. 29 people to get a 68-year-old guy because he might have lied to Congress. I mean, it is actually a joke, but it's not a joke because this is how far they've gone to trying to take down Trump, is to arrest people, prosecute them, put them in solitary confinement. They're not dangerous criminals. They may be unethical people. They may have committed crimes, but they have nothing to do with some type of international spy ring, whether working for Putin and all this other stuff. But what it does is it lends an air to the fact that, oh, well, they see if these people are bad, then Trump must be bad. And if Trump is bad, he must have colluded with Russia, so we got to get rid of him. That's really the angle they're playing here. Now, with Bob Barr coming in, Bob Barr has pretty much looked at this and realized there actually was a lot of reasons. If you really wanted to go breaking doors down and rounding people up, you could have done it in connection with the Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, with respect to her illegal server and so on, but they didn't do it. And what they've managed to do is convince everyone, oh, it's just a bunch of emails, whereas they don't say, oh, it's just Roger Stone. First of all, Roger Stone is nobody. Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State. Roger Stone was just some guy. I mean, he really is a nobody, and to put that much attention on him and to have the frogmen in the pond or the canals outside of his house is really ridiculous. And it looks like this Mueller report, it's going to get wrapped up, and it might get reported to Congress. And it looks like Adam Schiff is saying, well, okay, if they don't find anything, we're going to continue to look. Which, again, highlights they're just looking to try to get Trump on anything they possibly can. And the reason there's still some public support for it is they've convinced, just by doing this for 2 years, there must be something wrong. He must have colluded with Russia. And if he didn't collude with Russia, it doesn't matter. He's a bad guy anyway, so he deserves what's coming to him. Again, all this is mob rule. It's got nothing to do with the rule of law. It's got nothing to do with a sense of justice. It really has to do with, let's take him down. And if we can stand behind the fact that it's the FBI and the intelligence community have told us this, the same people who didn't believe the intelligence community when it came to weapons of mass destruction. It's been proven time and again that the intelligence community, is, once it becomes political, is no longer the intelligence community. It can create the facts to support the narrative. And I think that's clearly what's gone on here. I think anybody who believes that the Trump campaign somehow was in direct connection with Russia and they flipped the election, they've only believed that because they've heard it, and they haven't heard people give the reasons why that's ridiculous. And they're prone to believe it because they want to believe it. They want to believe. They dislike Trump, which I understand. People don't like Trump. So they figure, oh, well, he's such a bad guy. He must have done this. And if they're investigating him, then he must have done it. And when Trump says, hey, I didn't do it, they say he's obstructing justice because he's arguing that he didn't do it. How come they don't just let him, run through all of his papers and just have him arrested? Because if he doesn't want James Comey working there and he finds out that all these people are saying all types of horrible things about him, how he shouldn't be president, how we have to get rid of him because of the 25th Amendment, and he protests that, well, now he's obstructing justice. The whole thing is a real farce, and it'd be interesting to see how Bob Barr finally ends this whole investigation and whether they'll ever make public what Mueller found. Because so far what Mueller has found, some people use this as a proxy. Well, see, he's found so much. He's indicted 15 people. Yeah, but indicted him for what? Hasn't indicted him for anything with the purpose of the investigation was a counterintelligence probe to go after and find Donald Trump colluding with Russia. Now, if Mueller is holding on to the end, which I doubt it given the amount of leaks that they have, and the leaks are all designed to create the impression that there's some bad stuff going on, well, I think the baddest stuff that could have gone on would be they have the evidence that Trump spent his entire life working with the Russians and Putin, and he was the Manchurian candidate, and finally 2016 was his chance, and here he comes, and he's got the perfect scheme all set up. There's nothing to indicate that that's the case, but many people believe that. All right. So that will lead us into our next story, which is 2020. And it actually is, well, guess who's going to run? The 1% better look out because here comes Bernie Sanders. He's going to run again, and he's going to make sure there's racial and social justice in this country. And the country is a socialism, and he's going to go for it, and he's going to show us the way. But someone on earth, classic Bernie Moronica. This is, I want to play this Moronica here. Bernie Sanders has figured out that, look, all you people, you want to criticize socialism? Okay, well, he's going to tell you why socialism is actually better than anything else. Because in socialism, you have to wait online for the food. Okay. That's bad. No, it's not. It's not bad to wait online for food. No, no, siree. Why? Because in other countries, the 1% get all the food and the poor don't get any of the food. Oh, okay. So that's better. It's better to live in a communist country where you got a shot at the food than in some mythical country with the 1%. They make all the food and they keep all the food for themselves. He actually said, no, I'm not making this up. It sounds comical. That's why it's moronic. And I'm going to play it for you. Here is Bernie explaining to us why it's better to be in a communist country because of food lines.
It's funny. Sometimes American journalists talk about how bad a country is because people are lining up for food. That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
In other countries, people don't line up for food. The rich get the food and the poor starve to death.
The rich get the food and the poor starve to death. That's what happens. I want to know what countries do the rich get the food and the poor starve to death. If you just put in communism, then at least the people can wait in line for the food. And that's what we want to have in this country. Okay. So he's saying it's better to have the lines because at least the poor are entitled to the food when they get in the line. Otherwise, the 1% eat all the food. And that's not right, because if the 1% get the food, that means the poor people starve. And we're going to change that. We're going to set up food lines all along this country. Oh my goodness, that is moronic. I'm sorry, not to get political, but this is economics. This is complete and utter stupidity. All right, let's move on now. I think we can get to the topic. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do that again. Uh-oh. We got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent,
Smaulgld. This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
Now, I told Hillary Clinton that that's moronic.
Yes.
The idea that the people have to wait in line for food, that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because in other countries, the 1% eat all the food. And you don't get any food if you're one of the poor people.
Again, I'm not making it up. I may be embellishing a bit on old Bernie there, but that is exactly what he said. And for those of you who missed it the first time, here's Bernie the second time, explaining to us why waiting in line for food is a good thing. Here he is.
You know, it's funny, sometimes American journalists talk about how bad a country is because people are lining up for food. That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
In other countries, people don't line up for food. The rich get the food and the poor starve to death.
That's a good thing. The rich people get the food, and the poor people starve to death. So we need socialism for the 1%.
That might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That is classic Moronica.
The 1% get all the food. And you think it's not a good thing. But in the communist country, the people can line up for the food. And the 1% don't get all the food. They hand it out.
Chairman Bernie. All right, let's move on from that and see what we got in the gold and silver. All right, let's do gold. There's a lot going on here, and I think that this is, I haven't seen this in a long time. The mainstream media is very, very, they're not trashing gold at all. They're not trashing silver, and we're going to see some stories here. Central bank gold binge sparks buying signal. You never see that kind of stuff. That's pumper stuff. Central banks are buying gold. That is all I need to know. This is the kind of stuff you're hearing from, this is NASDAQ.com. Gold prices have been down since the precious metals hit all-time highs of nearly 1,900 years, 18 years ago, or 8 years ago. That's quite a long time and a nice, anyway. That's NASDAQ. I mean, they seem to be pumping gold. Here's another one. Bernstein Quants. This is on Bloomberg. Bloomberg hates gold. For all the attention lavished on gold for its relative durability during this global dash into risk, the pumping mining stocks. The real story could be companies digging it out of the ground. Bernstein Quants joined bulls on gold sector as cycle darkens. They must know that they've run this thing 9 years now. That they're going to have a kind of rotation into alternative assets, perhaps like gold or silver. They want to, it just seems strange. So let's look at, I got some more stories, but let's look at some of the gold prices. Let's look at both the gold price yesterday. Okay, this is yesterday, and you can see when you get to talk about this yesterday, gold was up $13. We mentioned the price, but we didn't get to talk about it. The gold price rose $13, $14 yesterday, up 1% to $13.40. Now today it fell down a little bit, but it was up for a while until the Fed came out with their minutes, and we're going to talk about that. But here's the gold price today. The gold price did get to $13.46. It had gone up another $6. You can see it fell down after it hit its peak. After then the Fed came out with their minutes and it fell. But currently the gold price has moved back. It's still at $13.40 right now. So gold is held above $1,300 very nicely. And really what gold is trying to do, as we talked about last night, is break that $13.50 mark. That's been where it's tried to hit the last, since 2014. It hit it 3 or 4 times. And Ed Vanderwelt is a guy, I think he covers gold for Reuters or Bloomberg, one of the two. But he's pointing out what we were talking about. You can see it there. Doesn't seem to get past that $13.50 marker. And we were repelled again today at $13.46. I think if it gets above that, you will see the gold then race to 1,400, and then you should start to see tailwinds for silver as well. But we're not getting there, and today was a little disappointing that we didn't get there. And obviously silver's not going to follow if gold doesn't go. But here's another story. Look at this one. Traders puzzled. What do you mean they're puzzled? It's in gear hedge after gold surges to 10-month high. Now remember, gold is only up less. I mean, it's not up big time or anything. It's just up from like 1280. You know, it's up 50, 60, $70. But people are surprised, and look at that. It's on its way up again, but maybe it'll hit that 1350 mark again. And as we mentioned last night, also, John Rubino, dollar collapse, same thing. That gold is approaching the 1350 ounce resistance level. It's repelled it 4 times in 5 years that we've just seen on Eddie Vanderwelt's chart, and he's got a similar chart here. Will this time be the breakthrough? And of course, John says very possibly. Who knows if it will be? And again, I think the key to silver rising is gold has to go first. Let's look at silver. Well, before we look at the price, well, let's look at yesterday's price, the 19th. Nice day, 17 cents up over a point. Didn't quite get to 16, but today, even though gold fell back a bit, silver finally managed to poke its head above 16 and stay there. There it is. That went well above 16. It was quite a day for a while. Silver is up to 16.19, fell back to 16.06, and is currently down at 16.03. So, hasn't held 16 for 24 hours, but it is above 16 again. Now look at this, though, on silver. Yahoo Finance. Any chance to bash gold or silver? I'm sure they're on it. Silver price forecast. Silver markets continue to show strength. I mean, it's $16. It's not that strength. But again, silver markets rallied slightly during the trading session on Monday. The fact that they cover it, and they cover it in a way like it's a good thing. Went up 6 cents, 8 cents, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's a scenario, lack of liquidity. Okay, but then they say, well, it didn't quite happen. This happens all the time. The fact that they're covering it in a positive light, to me, it's not normal for the mainstream financial media to cover silver or gold in any positive light. Now let's look at the gold-silver ratio, where it is. You know, after today, it's still elevated, 83.5 to 1. We're not going to discuss gold-silver tonight, but let's move on now to the crypto space, which is also having a very big last few days, a big week this week. Now, let's take a look before we move on. We got a lot of crypto stories too. And again, I always say the price of crypto has nothing to do with the health of what's going on in the crypto markets. Really, the price is just sentiment of speculators moving in and out or looking at charts. It really has nothing to do with what's going on with cryptocurrencies. So right now, Bitcoin, it's above 3,900. It is at 3,923. That's up 1.37%. And that's a nice little move there. Bitcoin Cash up 4% to 144. Ethereum up 3% to 145. Litecoin burst above $50 today. Stayed above $50. Is at $50.50. That's up 8.5%. Remember, Bitcoin in December, Litecoin in December was down to $22. It's more than doubled since December, middle of December. Ethereum Classic at 460. That's up 2% as well. Now let's get into some of these stories here and why this is happening. All right, let's look at Bitcoin ETFs. And Bitcoin ETFs, they're going to happen. And they're going to happen. There's like over a dozen of them pending, and they're just for Bitcoin. And remember, there's only 21 million Bitcoin that can ever be mined into existence. There's already like 18 million mined. They claim between 3 and 5 have been lost. So there's not really that many Bitcoin, and there's like 260,000 of them locked into the Grayscale Bitcoin ETF Trust. It's not an ETF, the Bitcoin Trust. And if these Bitcoin ETFs like Van Eck or the New York Stock Exchange ARCA one get approved, they can be a lot bigger than 220,000 Bitcoin because they're going to be fully 40 Act compliant. They will be for institutional investors, And they're just going to pull a lot of the Bitcoin out of circulation. There won't be much around, really. Now, this is different than gold and silver, where, yes, you can create paper derivatives, but there is, even though silver is a small market, there is a lot of silver out there. There is a lot of gold out there. There's not many Bitcoin. Yeah, you can divide it into small pieces, but that just means the price has to rise to make it sense to do that. But the Van Eck one now, they've got the clock started, and they'll probably have a decision, it looks like, in 45 days. Now, they have 45 days to approve, reject, or they can extend. But I think they're done doing this extension stuff. I think they would have already been approved to and shut the government down. I mean, the issues that they're worried about are manipulation. And it's not that it's manipulation they're worried about, because obviously gold, silver, oil are manipulated all the time. It's whether you can see the blatant manipulation. And the way the SEC sees that and gets comfortable with that is that at least they can see it happening, and they know that it's happening through these, what they call market surveillance agreements, of which Van Eck has entered into with some of the OTC trading platforms. They have NASDAQ looking at some of this stuff as the survey, and NASDAQ knows how to do this surveillance. So I don't think the SEC is going to have an issue with that. Another issue is liquidity. Well, obviously, if you have an ETF, then that adds liquidity. The storage thing, I think they have nailed down. There's a lot of cold storage type of solutions that they spent millions on trying to perfect, so I'm sure they'll be fine with that. Now, that's Van Eck, and now you've got the New York Stock Exchange has one pending as well. And that's mentioned over here in this story with 2 Bitcoin ETFs. This is in CoinDesk. And you can see that the SEC is now reviewing them. And the SEC is not against Bitcoin. The people out there that are still stuck to this, they're going to crush the Bitcoin. They're well past that. They're trying so hard to approve the Bitcoin ETF, backed. They're trying so hard to get all this stuff under the regulatory umbrella because they know there's big money there from institutional investors, from JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, all the big entities, Van Eck, Fidelity, TD Ameritrade. They know that if they get all this stuff wrapped up, they can trade this stuff, derivatize this, to financialize it the same way they do with stocks, bonds, and everything else. And it's big money, and that's what they want to do. Anyone who doesn't see this coming, they're just blind. Cryptos are going to zero. They are digital illusions of wealth. They will never be worth anything. They are all going to zero. That is just the most short-sighted way of looking at it. It may be a bubble, and you may not like it, and it may be digital, and you can market the beast and all the other stuff you want to say. I try to look at things objectively. I'm not touting it. I'm not saying this is the greatest thing ever, but you'd have to be blind not to see what's going on here is they are trying to push this whole crypto system. And it's also becoming, they keep saying that no one's using it. That's not true. Bitcoin, Litecoin transactions are up year over year. These ATMs are proliferating all over the place. Yeah, it's not like everyone in the world has Bitcoin and everyone's using it, but far more people are using it, are investing in it, are trading it. I'll give you another example here. Trading volumes in Bitcoin. Came out today. 9-month high. Where's that one? There it is, right here. See, you can't look at the price and say things aren't happening. The price has nothing to do with what's happening. The price is no correlation to what's going on in the Bitcoin market. Bitcoin price looks north as trading volumes hit 9-month highs. This coin does saying could revisit highs of 4,200 in the near term. And you're also seeing other innovations here. You get Bitcoin via ham radio. You don't even need the internet. You also have Bitcoin now through a company, I think it's called Blockchain. I can't think of the name of the company. But they've got satellites in space that run the blockchain. So you don't need the internet there. You can... All these innovations are happening. They're not happening because they're expecting Bitcoin to go away, go out of business. It's crazy. All right, now Elon. Here's another one that should tell you everything you need to know. Jack Dorsey endorses Bitcoin. That is all I need to know. Well, Elon Musk likes Bitcoin. That is all I need to know. Well, I don't think that way, but I will tell you that Jack Dorsey's Square is Bitcoin compliant. You can buy Bitcoin on Square or their Cash app. The guy himself is involved. I mean, and you gotta remember who Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk, they're part of the whole whatever establishment you want to say it is. How else could a company like Tesla have a $36 billion market cap and not make any money? How can he get away with all the stuff that he says and does online about taking the company private, about merging Solar City into Tesla when that's clearly self-dealing? I mean, the stuff these guys get away with is because they're hooked in. And therefore Bitcoin. Elon Musk calls Bitcoin brilliant, better than paper money. He's the founder of Tesla, SpaceX, Solar City. Cryptocurrency's far better way for fiat money. But you may disagree with him. You may dislike Jack. I'm not a fan of Jack Dorsey either. But these guys are Bitcoin proponents. Why? Because they know there's big money in it. It's an easy way to transact. It's digital. That's why they like it. Here, look at all this. Bitcoin to test 4,000. Anticipation of China. What does that even mean? It's got nothing to do with it. Well, the best story that meant absolutely nothing was Bloomberg. This is just complete stupidity. And the comments were precious under this one. They said, this is a quote. Okay, Bloomberg. I should read you some of the comments. Bitcoin is getting a delayed boost from the announcement that JP Morgan has developed a digital coin to speed up payments between corporate customers. JP Morgan's coin has nothing to do with Bitcoin. But, and everyone's thinking, I say it's clueless. There's hundreds of comments under this tweet about how stupid Bloomberg is for saying this. But actually, there's method to the madness here. What they're trying to do is say, hey, JP Morgan likes crypto. Bitcoin is crypto. Bitcoin's going up. JP Morgan's going up. Everyone's crypto. Everyone's happy. That's how I read this. This is the whole get Wall Street. The two have nothing to do with each other. I'm not even going to even discuss why JP Morgan's coin is not like Bitcoin. It's not an endorsement of Bitcoin. It's not a competitor of Bitcoin. It's an entirely different thing. But Bloomberg Crypto. Now think about that. Why would Bloomberg set up an account called Bloomberg Crypto if they're expecting this just to go away? Bloomberg Crypto. You can't get more established than that. Then add in Jack and Elon and all these people. They are salivating over this because they know it's better than a carbon tax probably, because you don't have there's really no resistance to cryptocurrencies. It's like you could be again, and I get them on my channel. Cryptos are going to zero. You are going to ruin your reputation by talking about cryptos. I don't know what they're talking about. First of all, my reputation has nothing to do with cryptocurrency. I'm not touting crypto, gold, silver. I'm analyzing them. But I'm analyzing to the fact that Bloomberg doesn't have something called Bloomberg Crypto because they're expecting it to go to zero. They know this stuff is all being pushed and touted. There's more. Wait, there is more. I will show you more. Bitcoin and Galaxy today. Samsung announces its new S10 phone. It's got in there a way to have a vault to keep your private keys to your cryptocurrencies. Now, why would they do that if this stuff is going away? Bitcoin price breaks over 4,000 amid Samsung Galaxy S10 rumors. They announced their phone today. It wasn't the main focus of their announcement, but again, the phone is going to be where people transact. Yeah, they can spy on you through the phone. I'm not advocating this stuff. I'm just telling you what's going on. It's being adopted. It's being endorsed by the biggest names and the biggest companies. The idea that the banks and the big companies and the governments are going to crush it. No, they're not. They don't want to crush it. They want to tax, trace it, and they want to profit from it. And that's what they're doing. The days of trying to crush crypto is over. They're not even thinking about that. Here, this got a lot of attention today. Bitcoin for coffee. And this is good for Smaulgld mugs, because the more coffee people drink, the more mugs people are going to need. Veteran Investment makes a bold prediction about Bitcoin and the future of money. This is in Forbes. Now, if this was going away, they wouldn't be listening to some lunatic talking about Bitcoin bold predictions. And again, I'm not saying that Forbes is endorsing this, but they're reporting on it. What they choose to report on. Anyone can make a prediction. the fact that they put this guy's prediction there and it makes news, to me, again, this is what I think is objective analysis, means that they're promoting this stuff. Now, they're not outwardly promoting. They would never say they're promoting it, but by their choice. Why are they talking about this? Billionaire investor and renowned Bitcoin build. Dim Trapers predicted it'll be just a few short years before everyone's using Bitcoin. That may or may not be true, but one thing I do agree with that is, and that's why I look at those ATMs, the fact that there's like 4,400 of them now, and there was like 2,000 of them last year, that's a big deal. These kind of things just creep up on you. Again, if Bitcoin was going away because of the bad financial year last year, the 80-90% drop in price, there wouldn't be more Bitcoin machines. There wouldn't be any investment in Bitcoin. Bakkt wouldn't be coming out. You wouldn't have all this talk about Bitcoin. It'd be forgotten. Far from it. Here's one. Bitcoin for coffee and Smaulgld mugs. Tim Draper. Everyone will buy Bitcoin, will buy coffee with Bitcoin in 2021. Okay. And everyone will buy, I'll sell you the Smaulgld mugs for Bitcoin and Litecoin. Why not? What else do we got? I mean, there's just so much of this stuff here. Here's another one. What's this one? This is in Forex Street. Bitcoin will be everywhere in 2 years. All right. Now, why is that getting a big attention? I mean, all right. Bitcoin to 4,200. CCN analyst. Bitcoin charts. Again, they always go to the charts as all signs at the bottom. Now, with all this talk here, I asked the question, is the Bitcoin 4.0 bubble forming? Now, why do I say 4.0? This has happened before. It went from $4 to $100, then back down. Then it went from $100 to $1,200, then back down. Then it went from $100 to $20,000. Bubbles, when you call something a bubble, and you want to label it as a bubble, it's usually a one-off, and that's it. The internet bubble, it burst and it was over. The tulip bubble, it burst and it was over. Tulips don't rise from the dead. We've never had another tulip bubble. The cryptocurrencies have bubbled 3 or 4 times by now. Now here you go in Venezuela. Ongoing economic crisis in Venezuela beyond show that the idea of Bitcoin as a store of value is increasingly catching on. I don't agree with that, but I guess when you compare it to a Venezuelan bolivar, I suppose that it is. So let's look at what people are thinking about on the crypto. This is Forbes crypto rally. 2 days it goes up, and they're all over it. Crypto rally in Forbes. Strong crypto rally to start the week. What caused the mad rush? And they're promoting Ethereum here. Again, they're not promoting it, but so what? The price went up a couple of days, and this is what they're saying here. Here, look at this one. Bitcoin sentiment. Bullish sentiment for Bitcoin is long bets near 11-month high. My question then is, with all this news out there, is this the makings of Bitcoin bubble 4.0? Okay, so you got Litecoin halving. Now, that's a big deal. That's coming up. This is in investing.com. Litecoin price analysis. Will second halving carry Litecoin to the moon? It's all starting. At least this is how I see it. It's not me promoting it. This is what I see when I look at the news. I didn't see this a year ago. What else? Now, this is a very interesting one. This is Wyoming. Now, all these states always come up with ways to, they make Bitcoin, they make gold, they make silver, they allow them to be traded in their state, and okay. I read this. I actually read the bill. The Wyoming, this is just an astounding bill because, yeah, they passed 2 groundbreaking, blah, blah, blockchain, this and all that. But one of the bills actually says that one of the issues that companies, let's say you have a startup company and you're like I don't know, you're selling Bitcoin books, whatever you do. And you have a bank account. And the bank account says, well, screw you, we're not going to use you because you have cryptocurrencies. And they toss you out of your bank account. Okay, well, you got employees to pay. You got taxes to pay. You don't have a bank account. Wyoming's gone as far as to set up basically just a place. It's not FDIC, where you can put your money and store it and then use that to pay employees. I mean, they're facilitating crypto businesses in Wyoming. So if your bank kicks you out, you go to Wyoming and you get a non-FDIC type of account where you can put your money into it. And you can pay your employees and you can pay your taxes. If you don't see this, this is astounding. This is not the government trying to stop anything. People are still on that wagon. The government's going to crush it when it becomes competition. It's not competition. They're co-opting the whole thing. They're encouraging it. All right, let's just see. Now, I did a couple of polls. I think we're ready for the polls. Now, let me show you these polls here. Here's Dow over. This is an interesting one. Dow futures eye feeble open, but is Bitcoin on the verge of historic recovery? This isn't me. This is what is out there now. It is the genesis, I believe, another pump coming. As I mentioned all the time, the bankers missed the first 3 Bitcoin bubbles. They missed them. They weren't allowed to participate. Now they're trying to get into it. So let's look at a couple of polls here. So the first one on Twitter I asked was, are cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Litecoin, on the verge of another bull market? Half say no, half say yes. Yes when Lambo, no, it's a head fake. All right, that's fine. And the Smaulgld Game Changers on YouTube, what do they say to that question? All right, they said pretty much the same thing. Half said yes, half said no. 36 votes there. So pretty much some people think that this is coming. Now, today I asked the second question, Bitcoin bubble 4.0, is it forming? Now on Twitter, this was today. The other one was 2 days ago. Well, now all of a sudden, 75% say it looks like it is because you had another follow-through day. And then today, I was, I don't know how many people, I don't know if we got as number of people to respond today, but I did ask the question to the Smaulgld mug stackers and game changers. Same question. Let's see what we got here to the answers. I don't know how many people responded. I only put it up a little while ago. And I'll grab a screenshot and we'll throw it up there. Okay, so more people are saying yes today than yesterday. They're saying, is a Bitcoin bubble forming? And let me just see, we got comments here and we can include those. Stacking Assets says, LOL, what's it up? Like $300 after being down 85%. You got to start somewhere. Pablo Pena says, Bitcoin is no longer a bubble. It will systematically grow. And then what does he say? He says, it's here to stay as a store of value. I was always against it, but welcoming diversity is not too shabby. Yeah, that's how I was. And in fact, I was convinced when it crashed after the 2013 bubble that that was the end of it. There was no reason for it, and it was gone. And to me, the price was a vindication that I was right about its utility and whether people would even bother with it. It's clear now. I don't like it. That the utility is there, and more people are interested in it today than ever before. More people use it. More people have invested in it. More money has been invested into the ecosystems than ever before. It's not a promotion. It's just a fact that is what's happening with the whole cryptocurrency space. It's worth, the fact that Bitcoin is worth what? Let me just get this down here. $80 billion is evidence that there's people that believe in it. All right, let's get to the poll. So the latest poll here, let me pull it up for the Smaulgld mug stackers and game changers. So 55% say yes, it is forming. Nah, it doesn't mean it will form. There could be bumps in the road. And I'm not saying that there is an argument that Bitcoin could go to zero. I'm not arguing that. But I think the people that are saying it's going to zero are not looking at, they just have it in their head that it is worthless. And it is a digital illusion of wealth. And it will all go to zero. It's because they're not looking at what's going on, and because they're in love with their own perspective and they're projecting what they want onto the market. And again, that's the same thing as my Jackson Pollock painting Doesn't matter what I think. I don't really like Jackson Pollock. I do think that it's a scam. People throwing paint at a canvas. But I don't determine that market. There are enough people who actually believe that that's art. It's worthwhile art. And that's how it is. It's the same with Bitcoin. Same with any cryptocurrencies. People think they have value. You don't determine value. I'll never forget when Ron Paul was saying, yeah, when he was saying to Bernanke, so when he asked him if gold was money, and Bernanke looked at him, he says, no. And he said, why did the central bank hold it? And he said, it's tradition. That's a stupid answer, but that doesn't mean that gold is money because central banks hold it. And when he said it wasn't money, Ron Paul's answer was, now, so someone remove that economic law? It's not an economic law. There is no economic law that gold is money, period. Value and money are all determined collectively by societies, not by YouTube pumpers or three-term congressmen. I don't understand why people don't understand it, because they've been indoctrinated that gold is money, period, silver is money, period, even though they know that over history, money has taken different forms. Yes, gold and silver have performed the best as money for many millennia, but that's because it made the most sense to use gold and silver. Today, it doesn't make as much sense to use gold and silver for transactions. It doesn't make gold and silver not valuable as stores of value or for commodity use, or there's many uses for gold and silver. And I go back to my horse analogy, that horses were transportation, the mode of transportation, for as long as gold and silver were money. Horses were transportation, period. Did someone just remove that? Get rid of that law of transportation? No. Cars came along, and the usefulness and utility of a horse for transportation went away. You can still use a horse for transportation. You can go from New York to Boston somehow. You can find your way to get to Boston from New York. It's not the best way to go, and I'm sure you can load the horse up with gold and silver and go buy stuff when you got there. But that's not how the world works today. And I don't understand why they don't understand. People who promote gold and silver don't understand that. Well, gold is money. Well, silver's money. Silver's money. Period. No, there's a law on it. All right. I got to move on here. But I do want to see what you guys have to say. And let's see. What can I show you? What can I show you while we all chat here? I got maybe get some pictures of some of the dogs. I love showing you guys the dogs. Some fine animals. Dogs and mugs. Buddy. Let's start with Coco. Actually, yeah, I want to show you the pug mug. There you go. I love that dog. There he is. He's part of the Smaulgld mug club. He's got both mugs going on there. All right. Let's see who we got here. Ann Holloman, always here every night. Good. That's the top chat. We got to get her in the live chat here. Scott Verdell. In Venezuela, the 1% get the food and the poor get to eat zoo animals. The line for the zoo goes blocks. That's right. I guess I'm missing something here. All right. Doesn't matter. DW is 1350. That carrot at the end of the stick, one that you can't reach. Seems to be, doesn't it? Let's get you some more dogs here. I mean, the dogs rule here. I love showing Lucky. There's Lucky with his Smaulgld classic mug. And that's why are they covering? They have an agenda. Yeah, I'm not a conspiracy theorist in the sense that, but I do believe that, I mean, it's obvious whether it's a conspiracy or not. Media takes its cues almost as a block. I mean, I saw this. I remember when Bruce Springsteen... I was noticing that Time and Newsweek used to have similar covers. But when Bruce Springsteen ended up on the cover of Time and Newsweek in the same week, I'm like, okay, Bruce Springsteen. I mean, no one knows who the hell the guy is. I didn't know who he was. Born to One had just come out. It wasn't even that big of a hit. It got to number 20 in the charts. And yet, Time and Newsweek decided it was Bruce's turn. That's just how it works. I look at this stuff and I realize that I'm seeing all this cryptocurrency stuff, and I'm seeing gold and silver too. I don't know if it's coordinated or if it's just like an oligopoly. Everyone just starts to follow it, but that's what I'm seeing. All right. Ann Holloman says Gemini twins also have one pending. They got rejected twice. I don't even know if they still have it pending, but there are like a dozen of them or so that have been presented. But the ones that are currently up, and it makes sense. Again, who are the Winklevoss twins? They're not connected. They are now. I mean, they're getting connected because they made billions, and they did get a bit license from New York. But I think that the SEC and the big shots, CFTC, they're going to go with Van Eck. They're going to go with the New York Stock Exchange first because they don't want these upstarts in there. You know, they want the Van Ecks. They want the ones that have big experience in ETFs. Gemini twins are upstarts. I mean, they'll eventually have one, but they won't get the market share because they'll make sure the New York Stock Exchange and Van Eck get in first. Now, Seth Shepard, the Bible predicted this was going to happen in the end times. Not sure what you're talking about. Now, here's the thing. I want to get biblical on you guys, and I don't have a copy of my Bible here, but I can wing it. Everyone likes to talk about the last chapter of the Bible. They talk about Apocalypse, they talk about Mark of the Beast, 666, and about needing the mark in order to transact, and that's in the hand or in the forehead. That's the gist of it. The idea that something is digital does not mean that it's mandatory. Does not mean that you have to have it in your hand or on your forehead in order to transact. Now, if you're going to interpret the last book of the Bible, well, then the analogy there would be, or the analog would be, governments forcing you to use a certain type of currency. That's legal tender laws. Voluntary cryptocurrencies. No one is telling you have to have a Bitcoin or a Litecoin to transact. In fact, think about right now, if you have to transact and you can't, who's stopping you? Well, could be Patreon, could be Visa, could be MasterCard, could be a bank. Closes down your bank account and says, can't use it. Well, now you don't have permission to transact. Your bank account's been shut down. Government can close your bank account. Government can seize your money. Can't transact. MasterCard, Patreon, PayPal can stop processing your payments. There you go. You can't transact. That you could say is Mark of the Beast. Bitcoin and Litecoin are actually the solutions when you get kicked off of those payment processing platforms where you're not allowed to transact. So that's what I think people, again, they conflate just the digital nature of currency as being somehow no, it's not. If it's just on a different platform. And the way the Bitcoin and Litecoin ecosystems are set up, no one's in charge. You can't get kicked off of Bitcoin. Bitcoin can't tell you can't use this platform. It's trustless, permissionless. You can get on it. PayPal can tell you to go pound sand. Patreon can tell you, sorry, not processing your payments. Your bank can kick you off. The SWIFT system can kick you off. Anyway, I don't like when people try to read into incorrectly and use the Bible as the basis for what they are trying to project onto the markets, because I think if you really think it through, it's not digital stuff that is the prophecy. It's someone or something telling you you can't transact. And that's not what Bitcoin and Litecoin are. You're allowed to use them. No one can stop you from using them. Alrighty, what else do we have here? Domino's now accepted. Yeah, through the Lightning Network. Pershanti Girl's here. She always shows up late, though. She misses the best bits. At least you can see Lucky on the screen there. Hold on, let's get another dog up there. Yeah, we got the pug. Like Buddy. Let's check out Buddy. We got Coco, too. We gotta see Coco. You guys like your dark dogs there. All black dogs. I'll show you. I got a lighter. I got a white dog. Alright. Gold bubble, silver bubble. And says Charlie bought back into Litecoin. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Scott says humans believe what we want to believe. That's true. See, Buddy actually has Smaulgld glass. He's got it going on there. He's got 2 Smaulgld glasses with his treats in there. Fiona's here. Straight from the former Soviet Union. 2 years after I got into Bitcoin and some altcoins, I still find it hard to transact with. I'm no dumb. I believe the margin for people trying to challenging too. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. But it's getting easier and easier. It's just like the internet. It's just like anything. You know, you move from DOS to Netscape, all of a sudden you can, you know. I don't view that as it's not happening. I view that as that's the natural progression. Lightning Network is even harder to use than trying to transact. The fact that it isn't there now doesn't mean that it's not heading towards it. There's just too much money moving into that. User interfaces are all improved. More companies will accept it. More companies will use it. More companies trade it. Fidelity's going to trade it. TD Ameritrade. Yeah, if you look at it today, it's a joke where it might be 5-10 years from now. I don't disagree with that. And in that, maybe there is an opportunity. Again, none of this is preordained that it's going to go higher or it's going to be more accepted. What I'm saying is that there has been a trajectory over the last 10 years of increasing acceptance, increasing use, increasing investment, increasing innovation, increasing adoption. It's still happening on that trajectory. It stopped, but it hasn't. Revelations, eschatology. All right. Pandora wallet. All right. Yes, I know. Sorry, Lewis, I'm always late. We're going to have to start deducting you. Giving you D credits. What about Litecoin? What about Litecoin? Litecoin on fire, says, and leading the market. Yes, indeed. Or that other one, EOS, is also doing that as well. All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you for joining me tonight, and we will see you tomorrow. Let's see if I got anything else for you here. Yeah. I'll give you 10 seconds unless we got anything else. If not, I'm going to sign off, and again, we'll see you tomorrow night. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Buonanotte. By the way, Saturday night, it's going to be Saturday night silver with Smaulgld and Sal. Salivate Metal, a multitude of gratitude. He's going to be joining me. We'll have a live stream at 6:30. Salivate Metal. And don't forget, on St. Patrick's Day, our friend Seamus will be by. He'll be running the whole show for Louis. He'll be taking over the mic. And have a grand time. So make sure on St. Patrick's Day you line up yourself and you're getting ready for a good old show with Seamus. All right. Thanks, everyone. Multitude of gratitude.